night while playing poker. I got it, on a Peloton. An elite group of savants, card sharks, and people who bring their lunch to the office, like me and Greg, fought and toiled and burned the midnight oil to deliver the best segment in all sports. It's an honor and a privilege. It's another edition of NBA Tiers.
Thank you, as always, Kevin Wildes. Thank you to the committee for another late evening putting this together. However, sadly, we had to have a whole bunch of eliminations.
Oh, no.
Oh.
There were a handful of teams that made last week's inaugural tiers of the season that we knew were not long for the tiers. We can show you them now because these teams have now all been newly eliminated. Sixers, Raptors, Nets. They have all been eliminated from the tiers. The Wizards, the Hornets, the Jazz, and the Pelicans were previously already eliminated. Now, bottom row, I'll just be honest. We're done paying attention to these teams. The Spurs, I wanted to. We would have, but obviously Wemby got hurt. The Blazers with Scoot were fun, but right, Chauncey is actually doing a good job with the Blazers, as it happens. And the Magic are really the most disappointing of the group because last year it looked like they had built something a bit, and this year at the beginning I thought, and then it's weird. They're on-off with Paolo stuff. Yeah. It's odd. I don't love it. All right. The stars of July, Suns, Mavs. They're not that relevant for the next couple months. But, oh, man, come the offseason, these two teams are front of the marquee. Where's Kevin Durant going? Could Devin Booker be on the move? Are the Mavs going to then trade for one of those two people I just mentioned? Is Nico Harrison going to be there? If he's not, is the new person going to be like, sorry, we actually have to trade Anthony Davis too? Who knows? I do know those two teams, super interesting come July. Get the brooms ready. Clippers, Kings. One of these teams is going to be the 8th seed. And that team is then going to get absolutely, immediately, and summarily swept by Oklahoma City. One of them will make it, though. This is almost assuredly going to be your final play-in game in the West. These two teams playing each other. I'll be rooting for the folks with the beam. It's probably going to be the Clippers, and then Oklahoma City's going to get rid of them. Now to teams that could win a round or more in the playoffs, and really the 10 or so teams in the league that have a real chance moving forward. LeBron was right tier. Here's what I mean. Can you credibly have a 3-minute conversation about any of these three teams if you cover the league? If you can, great job. They're all super interesting. If you can't, you're kind of what LeBron was talking about when he's like, how the league's covered these days. The Rockets with Wild's been covering the Rockets for 4 years.
The only one.
They almost got too good for him to care about anymore. Detroit, Cade Cunningham, J.B. Bickerstaff. That is not only a great story, but it also makes sense in NBA history. You know what usually happens? If you get the number 1 pick of the draft and get it right and the guy's a star, your team becomes credible almost instantly. And the Pacers, it feels like the beginning of last year and now, if we just erased what happened at the end of last season and the beginning of this year, you see what Tyrese Halliburton could be. Yes. They're all interesting teams, all of whom could win a round. Can't totally dismiss here Grizzlies, Knicks, and Timberwolves. Now, I understand these teams have drastic... Grizzlies fans might be like, you're putting us on the same tier as the Timberwolves and our record's so much better. The point I'm making is this. Right now, none of these three teams are included in any make the finals conversation, but I am not ready to totally dismiss any of the three. The Knicks built a roster that they thought could win a championship. It has all its pieces. It hasn't lived up to the expectations as far as their ability to beat the good teams, but it has the talent. We know how good the Grizzlies could be with the big three of Ja, Triple J, and Desmond Bane, good supporting cast. And we saw Minnesota, albeit a different Minnesota, in the conference finals last year. I can't totally dismiss any of those three, even though it's very hard for me to see any of them winning 3 rounds. Now to your 7 best teams in the league. Nothing would shock me. So this is an upgrade for me for the Warriors because the games have to matter. I've been quite adamant that even with the addition of Jimmy Butler, I thought they had a very hard round 2 ceiling. Because come round 2, they were going to have to either beat Oklahoma City, Denver, or the Lakers, assuming those are the 3 teams remaining. And I didn't think they had a shot at that. They've been so good since Jimmy got there. And Steph does seem reinvigorated to a degree that I can't just say they have the hard round 2 ceiling. I can't dismiss them, and the championship DNA of Steph and Draymond and Kerr has to matter. And then there's the Bucks, who will be getting Bobby Portis back. I think his suspension, while unfortunate, it's also a huge basketball loss for them. Dame is playing far better this year than I thought he would after what we saw last year. But last year he said he was going through a lot, the divorce, moving, all of it. And Giannis is Giannis, so nothing would shock me. If healthy, ... If this Lakers team's healthy, I believe they're going to win the championship. Wilds is off camera, but he just rolled his eyes through the back of his head, even though listen, 20-4 with the #1 defense over a third of the season has to matter. 2 all-time legendary playoff performers on the same team who were playing well together has to matter. What also has to matter is this. It's very hard for any team to make it through 2 months of the playoffs fully healthy, and the Lakers are the only one that every team has 1 or 2 guys they can't lose to injury. The Lakers might have 5. Luka, LeBron, and Jackson Hayes, and Rui Hachimura, so it's a tough needle to thread. That's where I've got them. Championship DNA and talent. These are your last 2 champions. These are teams that have, for the Celtics, 7 super high-level players and 2 legit superstars, or Jaylen Brown's not yet in club superstar, but superstar adjacent. The Nuggets have the best player in the league, a guy who plays his best come the postseason. Some think it's because that he's got a playoff mode. Some people think it's just by that time he's finally in game shape. And then also Michael Porter Jr., high-level talent, obviously Aaron Gordon. And then the top 2 teams in the league blame the Jazz and the Hawks for the lack of kind of respect. And by that I mean is this. We all saw an Atlanta Hawks team that was incredibly well put together, that had 5 All-Stars, win 60 games. No one really believed in them, and then they get swept by LeBron in the conference finals. We all saw the Jazz a few years ago win 50 games in a 72-game season, be the 1 seed, nobody really believed in them, and then they had a horrible second-round loss to a Clippers team without Kawhi. Their regular season accomplishments are unimpeachable, but the reason people have a hard time believing they're better than probably certainly the 2 teams beneath them, if not the 3 or 4 teams beneath them, is because it feels like we've kind of seen that story before. There's the latest tears brew.
The #1 seeds are at the top.
It pains me to do this because I so respect the Tears.
What's wrong?
Riles, I could have sworn that I read this morning in USA Today.
Thank you.
It was on the record page. It was called the Standings.
I saw it by the breakfast buffet.
Yeah.
I grabbed the USA Today.
We got the #1 seeds at the top, the #2 seeds in the second row, the #3 seed in the third row.
Holy cow.
What are we doing?
I saw that. I saw the weather.
You just gave a soliloquy on how Boston and Denver are better than OKC and Cleveland, and yet on the tiers it's the standings. I'm baffled. But anyway, I digress. I'm going to talk about the Bucks. I hated to do it. I hated to do it, but the Bucks, Nick. Drop the Bucks down. You made a good point.
Wild just saluted me. Wild just did a Captain Easy stance to the tiers.
You're learning well.
Wow.
You made a good point about Bobby Portis coming back, but the Bucks, I'm sorry, they got to drop. They have to fall. At least a tier, if not 2. And here's why. They've lost 3 straight. All right. So they're not playing well. They're now in essentially a 3-team tie for the 4th best record in the East. And Detroit is obviously playing better. And Indiana was losing some games, but they just beat the Bucks last night. Here's the other thing. The Bucks are 11-16 against teams with 500 record or better. All right? That is of the teams with the 11 best records in the NBA. That's the worst against winning teams. Even the Knicks, who we all know can't beat good teams, as you said, Nick, they got a better record against 500 or better teams than the Bucks do.
That's no.
And speaking of the Knicks, they can't beat anybody that's good.
They beat.
You know who they can beat? The Bucks, and they beat them like a drum.
Oh.
They're 2-0 against the Bucks. Giannis and Lillard played both games, and they clobbered them by an average of 28 points. So I'm sorry.
So
I think the Knicks, Memphis, and Minnesota, at least right now, should be ahead of the Bucks.
All right, so that's totally fair, and the record against 500 teams is noteworthy and I think important. It is going to be hard for me to drop the Bucks too much further than where they are because of this. And in 2021, Giannis had one of the greatest playoff runs of any player in the last 20 years, culminating in 50 points to win a title. In 2022, he was even better, you could argue, and then Middleton gets hurt. They still almost beat Boston, and I believe had Grant Williams not hit 8 threes in that Game 7, they would have won the title because I don't think Golden State could have dealt with them. Since then, we haven't seen Giannis in the playoffs healthy.
Hurt, right.
He missed the playoffs, and then another playoffs he got hurt during and hurt his back. So I still just think playoff Giannis and him being absolutely unstoppable is a real thing. And so none of those teams beneath them have anything like that. And I think that's so valuable come the playoffs. Your points are totally valid, but that it's going to be just hard for me to drop a team that I think probably has the second best player in the league too far.
Thought that was great. You know, I went up to Lake Placid for my son's hockey tournament. And we were there for the winter, but a lot of it is like, hey, come back for the summer. It's like, it's also nice here. So it's very similar to tiers, where if you're here in the spring, I would ask you to also come back in the fall, where we saw the Chiefs run the top of tiers almost the whole time because they were the defending champions.
Can you keep saying that? They were the defending champions with the best record in the league from the first day of the season until the Super Bowl. No, they had the first game of the year.
That's true.
And they
won
it.
First week.
And so they had the best record in the league wire to wire.
Did they ever look good?
Buddy, they were the two-time defending champs. Exactly. Had the best record all year long.
Even if they don't look at tip top, because they were the defending champs, we gave them a bit of grace. It's the same grace. I don't know. Maybe they played well.
They had the best record all year.
How did it play out? I don't know. I missed the. Were we right the whole time?
There were banners and confetti and balloons and all that.
The defending champ. Here's what I don't like. Okay, overall, in boxing, okay, you go in there and if you want to be the champ, you got to beat the champ. Yes. You don't just go in like, you know what? I saw this guy jumping rope, and actually, I think this guy's the new champ. He deserves to be the best champ. No, you have to beat the guy soundly to take the championship belt. That's how I view tiers. The Celtics, what happened to the Celtics? Porzingis is out. Have the Celtics fundamentally changed in any way? Nope, not at all. They are still the same championship team, even more chemistry and even more chip on their shoulder after the Olympics. And Jaylen Brown didn't even get to play. Neither did Tatum, but he did get a jersey and a medal. But what about the Cavs? Okay, they're 2-2 against the Cavs this year. And these games are kind of weird because people are always missing. Right. 2-2 against the Cavs. Cavs had a Donovan went off most recently, but still, their biggest opponents ahead of them. It's tied. And what happens in a boxing match if it's even, Brew? How would you judge that?
So a draw.
The champion.
It's called a draw.
Not a draw. The champion would get the benefit of the doubt. He keeps the belt. I guess he would in the draw, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm more of a UFC guy. I'm more of a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy. Me and Dana White tying guys up. It's big on podcasts. If you want to be a podcast, you got to talk about jiu-jitsu. Secondly, Celtics bench. Tatum took a little break. Sam Hauser's like, hey, you want me to score? Yeah, go ahead, Sam Hauser. Turned into Michael Jordan in a quarter. Scored 33 points. Hey, Derek White, how are you doing? You want me to score 40? Sure. Hey, Peyton Pritchard, how are you doing? Yeah, I'll score 42. The depth of the Celtics. I was watching Celtics-Lakers. I was like, if Brad Stevens called Rob Pelinka, he's like, hey, do you want Luke Cornett? Like, yeah, we will pay Luke Cornett the max. Luke Cornett's just like a guy who gets some minutes. Finally, when it comes to playoff time, just not losing 3 straight games. Not saying that every team will, or you can obviously lose a series without, but they're just been consistently excellent. 170 straight games without losing 3 straight. This does set us up for the Oklahoma City matchup tonight. I'm viewing this as a sneaky must-win.
For who?
The Celtics.
Wow.
They went to Oklahoma City, lost. They scored 27 points in the second half. You can't have Oklahoma City go into your building and win. And once they win, most recently they will have beaten the Thunder, the Lakers, the Nuggets, and a weird game against the Cavs that they lost. But for those reasons, I think
Wait, was the fourth one of the game they lost?
It was a weird game.
Okay.
No Drew Holiday.
All right. So here's the thing, Bruce. Since Wildes did this thing he loves to do, which is act like one's analysis of professional football must be the exact same as analysis of professional basketball, I will follow you down that path and assume I agree with you. 2 years ago, the committee believed in the Chiefs against all odds when it looked terrible, when it actually lost games, when it wasn't a top seed. And then that belief was vindicated. They won the championship. And it further emboldened the committee to have the audacious belief in the team that had the best record in the league all year long from start to finish. It is very different from, you're not a committee, one man who all last basketball season had one true belief. No one's beating the defending champs in a 7-game series.
Yeah.
No one's beating the defending champs
But
in
I
a 7-game
gave them
series.
their respect.
No one's beating the defending champs in a 7-game series. And as it turned out, the answer was the second team to have a chance to beat them in a 7-game series did.
But they deserve the respect. They're beaten fair and square.
Yeah. Okay. The Celtics might end the year atop the tiers. It is not the standings. This week's edition just happened to shake out that way. But how many games in a row has Cleveland won? 15. I think they need to be atop, and it's hard to put them atop and then ignore the Thunder, who I actually think are better than Cleveland, as does the committee. But it isn't boxing, where literally you don't have a season, you don't have regular season games in the playoffs. The reason, if the champ loses a fight, he loses the belt, and if he doesn't, he keeps it, is every fight is their championship. That's not how the other sports work. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.